नमस्कार सर।
नमस्कार सुचि श्रीमय, वेलकम।
आज्ञा।
Pranam sir. Subhasri, do you want to ask some question? Or only giving a message, Pranam? Subhasri, yes, sir. Please ask. Subhasri, please ask what is your problem. Let others come and join. By that time, you can discuss. No. No, sir. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ranjan Kumar Naik. How are you, Ranjan?
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar, Ranjan. You are from?
Sir, mu Digopond.
Where?
Digopond. I am from
Digopond.
Sir,
Digopond.
DPIC.
अच्छा अच्छा हाँ बीएड करते हो ना अच्छा हाँ यानी शिवो को जानती हो शिवो
सर मु इग्नो बीएड
हाँ शिव से इग्नो बीएड
हमर 18 बीएड सर
हाँ शिव दे तब तो 16 ओके
शिव हम सीनियर बैच सर हमर जो हम प्रभाती पूजा और हमर श्रीनिवास एई बैच सर हम सर 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 आपण भलो छन सर
हाँ रे भलो अछि दादा
आज्ञा आज्ञा
should start the session.
Yes sir.
By this time 20 are in connected linked. So yes, okay. By this time, for the last 3 days, we have been talking about and the gist. Suchistri, what is your problem? Suchistri, do you want to ask question? No. So here and there, I was talking to you that research is basically a process of gaining new knowledge by applying or by using scientific method, scientific procedure. So that way we can say research is the gateways to new knowledge. This is the gate through which we can get new knowledge, either changing the situation or developing the theories or bringing about new formula, principle, like that. So it is possible through research. Now the question is, in which area that you want to conduct your research? There are many areas. You can adopt any method, doesn't matter, but there are many areas. So how can you select a problem? What should be your unit of study, that is sample? How can you collect information? What could be your strategy or that is your hypothesis? All these have been discussed in this design, in this block, that is block 3, MES-16. The title of block 3 is your research design. Research design. That means in this block, we can discuss how to identify a problem, how to formulate your hypothesis, what should be your sample, what is the sampling technique, And how can you collect information or evidence? Tools and techniques. So 4 units. So block 3 is entitled as research design, which covers unit 10, unit 11, unit 12, unit 13, 4 units. The unit 10 is identification of problem and formulation of research questions. Unit 11 is hypothesis, nature of formulation, how to formulate. Unit 12, sampling. And unit 13, tools and techniques of data collection. So these are the 4 units that we have to cover under research design. Now, you have to select a problem because you have to conduct a research and, and you have to select a problem. There are 2 types of research problems. One is those which relate to the state of nature, and the second is those which relate to the relationship between variables. For example, you want to make a study, philosophical study, and the title is Epistemological Realities in Panchatantra. That means, what is epistemology? You are talking about epistemological realities. This is a branch of philosophy. Epistemology deals with or is concerned with knowledge. That means, whenever you are going to study, you have to investigate the knowledge system, sources of knowledge, nature of knowledge in your Panchatantra. This is related to the first type of problem, that is related to nature, philosophical. The second one is which is related to the relationship between variables. For example, the effect of coaching on students' performance, or a study of relationship between home assignment and achievement. Differential effect of, say, 5E model on the learner's achievement in science, like that. These are related to the second category of problem, that is problem related to the relationship of variables. Put together, we can say it may be quantitative research, may be qualitative research. Already I have told you. For example, you want to make a case study of dropouts, case study of truants, case study of absenteeism. All these are problems related to qualitative research. The form is case study. Similarly, you want to study the social systems, traditions, values of a particular group, particular unit of population, then that comes under your ethnographic study, like that. So that is under your qualitative. But if you want to know the it is given in your material, a study of values of secondary school students in relation to their social status, quantitative. A study of relationship between intelligence and academic adjustment. This is also a kind of quantitative research. Doesn't matter whether it is quantitative or qualitative, but a problem of your interest you should select. So therefore, now the question is how to identify a research problem. That means how to select, how to identify research problem. First thing is that an area from where the area in which you want to conduct a piece of research, in that area you must have interest. You must have not only interest, you must have sufficient background knowledge. You should have some kind of understanding of the concept. So therefore, we can say, while selecting the problem, you must know the field. Why are you going to undertake a problem in that? So therefore, Therefore, much knowledge, you should have sufficient background knowledge of that area so that it will help you in the process of research. So therefore, we can say a research problem must be firmly rooted in knowledge. So therefore, the identification of problem situation follows the following procedural effect. You must know the different theories. For example, when you are going to select the problem, you must uh, refer to different sources like professional experience. If you are a professional, you have a lot of experience, then from that experience you can. Or if you are not, even you have your personal experiences with relation to your living conditions, living situations, or to personal life, you can also make this. You can take the company mode means the people who are using company mode. You can see. So therefore, you can use your experience. Similarly, another source from which you can which can help you to select a problem is your inference from theory. Inference from theory. So therefore, there are different theories. What is a theory? Theory is a set of generalizations arrived at by carefully analyzed studied phenomena. For example, theories of personality, theories of intelligence, theories of adjustment, theory of creativity, like that. There are many theories. And when you study the theory, you can find interrelated factors or variables. They are related with each other. And those variables those help you to explain the situation. Therefore, from the theory, you can get a large chunk of information which can help you to select a problem. For example, you are talking about you are interested in teaching learning process. So therefore, the study could be, it is given in your handbook, effect of basic teaching model on the teacher's performance in a particular class. So for that teaching model, we have different models of teaching by choice. So you can make a reference to those theories of teaching model that can help you in the formulation of this problem. Similarly, you can have your discussion with the experts. There are many experts, maybe from the field, because you are a student of education. So now it is an interdisciplinary subject, education. For example, sociology, psychology, mathematics, statistics, philosophy. So all these are related to. Now you can make a consultation with the people, sociology professionals or teachers of sociology, psychology, history, like that, so that they can help you in the formulation of a problem or in the identification of a problem. Most important is dissatisfaction. As a researcher, you are not satisfied where you are not satisfied with the present findings of the study. For example, you have reviewed the literature. You find that no, these findings may not be correct. So it is not right. Let me undertake the study of that kind. So therefore, when you are not satisfied with the present going on, then you can select a problem that can help you. Another is your literature, review of literature. Now, how can you review the literature? Maybe previous studies, dissertation, your further research, your past researchers, they might have conducted studies in your area, the area which you want to select. So therefore, you can make a reference to the previous literature, like your MB survey of survey of education research, or abstract, or periodical journals, periodicals. That will help. For example, NCRT, National Council for Educational Research and Training, it is publishing 4 journals. One is Indian IER, Indian Educational Review. Another is Journal of Indian Education. Another is Science Teacher. Another is Primary Teacher. These 4 in English. Now you can read all this. Similarly, your UGC, in IU, Indian Institute of University, it is publishing one magazine, that is University News. So there are different topics. It is given in the reference. You can make a reference. You can refer to that. So therefore, there are different journals, encyclopedia, Indian books, dictionaries, handbooks, biographical literature. All these are there. Yearbooks. These literature can help you to identify a suitable problem. Now, all right, all these will help you. But the question is, whenever you are going to identify a problem, first you identify the broader area. That means in which area I am interested in. For example, the broader area is women education, primary education, higher education. These are the broader areas. Now from the broader area, you narrow it down.
Hello, sir. Bohi re kete number page?
Pardon?
Book page kete number?
Page 13. From the broad area,
Okay,
you
sir.
can narrow it down. Means higher education is your broader area. So from higher, there are many sub areas in the higher education. In which area you want to select? For example, you want to study the psychological basis of introducing choice-based credit system. This is a system of examination, choice-based credit system. What is psychological reason? Or attitude of +3 students, for example, or PG students, attitude of university students, college students towards the introduction of choice-based credit system. So now this is related to higher education, but the sub area is examination. Similarly, you can talk about the youth. Drug, there are many students, they are committing suicide. They are psychological frustrated. What are the reasons? Psychological, higher education, but psychological aspect. Similarly, drug addiction. Why? So you decide what is your sub area in the area of higher education. Similarly, primary education or elementary education, as you call. Elementary education is the broad area. From that elementary education is a vast area. You cannot do. So the sub areas, either curriculum or method of teaching in elementary education, or Right to Education Act, or Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan problems, working conditions, service conditions of the teachers working at the elementary level. Now these are the different sub areas. So after selecting after deciding the broad area in which you are interested, means you have some amount of knowledge, you have some amount of competency in that area. Then you can decide out of this main area, this is my sub area. So that it will help you to conduct your. Now, when you have selected the, when you have identified the problem to be investigated, you have to evaluate whether the problem selected is a right kind of problem or there is some problem. Therefore, it necessitates evaluation. That means the problem which you have selected for investigation, is it a right kind of problem or not? So therefore, the following questions you should ask yourself. So what are the questions? এই প্রশ্ন নিজକୁ ପଚାରିବ ଯେ ମୁଁ ଯୋଉ ଟପିକ ନେଇକି ମୋର MA ତମେ ଆର ବର୍ଷ କରିବ ନା ଏ MA ଏଜୁକେସନ କରିବି ଡିସର୍ଟେସନ ଟା ସେଇ ଟପିକଟା ଠିକ ଅଛି ନାହିଁ କେମିତି ଜାଣିବା what are the criteria? এই ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରିବ ନିଜକୁ କଣ number 1 is the problem researchable? Now you have identified the problem. Is it researchable? For example, I am giving the example. Is it good to provide sex education in the secondary schools? So now the question is, it cannot be researched. Why? It is so vast. Again, what is good? How can you know it is good or bad? So what is the? How can you evaluate? Therefore, there are many philosophical answers to it. There are some ethical questions. Therefore, such kind of problem should be avoided. Second is the problem new or original? That means the problem which you have selected for your MA education, for your MPhil, for your PhD, is it a new one? So now the question is, what does new mean? New doesn't mean totally new. For example, you can claim, yes, the title is same. For example, I have done a study on creativity and intelligence, their relationship. You can take that variable creativity and variable intelligence. But people can say, how it is new? Now it is new because his sample is from Koraput district. He has taken the students of class 10 from Koraput district. I am taking from Ganjam district. So new. He has measured creativity by using the Wallace-Kogan test of creativity. How can you know the creativity of the student? So some standardized tests are there. So you have used Wallace-Kogan. I have used Wallace-Kogan test of creativity. But you can use Toran test of creativity, so something new. Similarly, so sample-wise, tools-wise, for example, I have analyzed the situation by using, say, product movement correlation. You can make use of some other procedure of correlation, like partial correlation or phi coefficient, something like that. So on this, in terms of this, you can claim that my problem is a new one. Though creativity and intelligence has been studied, but the circumstances in which it was studied and the circumstances in which I am studying, they are different. His sample is different, my sample is different. His questionnaire is different, my questionnaire is different. His statistical analysis is different, my statistical analysis is different. So therefore, it is a new one. So therefore, the problem should be new one. New. You ask yourself, is it a new one? Yes, it is a new one. Why? Sample-wise, question-wise, it is new. Another question you can ask is the problem which has been selected a significant one? Significant means how can your solution of the problem or how can your findings of the research help the curriculum makers, help the government, help the administration in solving problem? That means what is the contribution of your study to the field of education? So therefore, that is the problem significant? And the last one is the problem feasible for a particular researcher? You are a researcher, I am a researcher, XYZ is a researcher. But now the problem which has been selected, it is feasible, is it possible? Possible in the sense, number one, you can ask, am I competent to do the research? For example, it requires some kind of higher statistical procedures, regression. I do not know. Your research problem requires use of ANOVA, application of ANOVA. Do you know ANOVA? No, I do not know. Then don't take it. So therefore, while selecting a problem, you must feel that the problem which I have selected, I am competent. I know this technique, I know how to analyze something like that. Then if you are competent, select, otherwise not. Similarly, are you enthusiastic or do you have interest in that area? If yes, select, otherwise not. The most important is that financial consideration. For example, you have to collect data. You type the thesis. For example, you have to collect the data. If for the purpose of collecting data, if it requires 10,000, 20,000, you are simply student. How can you arrange money? From which source? Your parents may not give the money. Maximum 1,000, 2,000, not 30,000, 25,000. So therefore, you should select a problem which is not so costly, which requires less cost. Similarly, another is your time requirements. Time requirements. How many days you have selected a problem? Can it be completed within 6 months, 7 months, 5 months, like that? Within 1 year maximum. For example, you are a student of MA, education through IGNOU. Your course is 2 years. And as per your regulation, IGNOU consideration, you will complete your MA education within 4 years. 2 years plus extra 2 years, 4 years. Now the problem which you have selected, can it be completed within the 2 years, 3 years? Also within 2 or 3 years you may get married. Something, there are many. You may get a job. If you are not in a job, then you can get a job. You can go to new place. There are different problems. So within 6-7 months, what is possible? You select that topic. You select that problem. And last one is your administrative consideration. There are many administrative considerations. For example, when one of my scholars for PhD, one of my scholars selected a good topic related to Berhampur University regarding your distance education. Then I said, it is a good topic, but now the administrative problem will be there. And so what is the administrative problem? I said, the kind of data which you want to collect, they will not provide you. For example, what is the fee structure, how the money is spent, how much you are getting from the UGC, how much money, how is the money spent, whether the lecturers are appointed for teaching the student. These are issues. Actually, this is not there. So they will not give you information. If they give it the right information, then it can be written to the government that this university do like this. So therefore, now question is, the problem which you have selected, can you get the required data information from them? So for example, another example, it may be hypothetical. For example, you want to do a very important area of research, that is, what are the major causes of divorce? For example, what are the major causes of divorce? Issues related to divorce. Now you have prepared a questionnaire and you have identified those who are divorcee, ladies. The husband has left, for example. Now when you go and ask them, Madam, I could come to know that you are a divorcee, your husband has left you. When you ask all these, she will beat you. She will beat you. She will say, husband she may not agree. She may not give you information. So therefore, similarly, तमें धर आम जेल अच्छी मुझे करी कैदी मान लाइफस्टाइल व्हाट इज द लाइफस्टाइल ऑफ द प्रिजनर्स जड़े जड़े 18 वर्ष 20 मुझे कह कथा नुह मोर सांगदन थी जेलर मुझे बड़ कष्ट जाइली मुझे देखली से इंटराक्शन कली इंटरव्यू कली केते तो भूल कर केते जन बिना दोष 14 वर्ष जेल अच्छा दे आर क्राइंग सर आई हैव नॉट कमिटेड एनीथिंग आई एम एजुकेटेड कि चीफ शुणुची जदि मुझे रिपोर्ट करी गवर्नमेंट प्रॉब्लम हो ना सो देयरफॉर there are many facts, there are many evidences which may not be given to you, they will hide. For example midday meal program तमे स्कूल जो मु देखी कोरापुट जिले मत गवर्नमेंट कहला तो आप सब कोरापुट कला भवन कला नवरंगपुर रायगड़ा एवं मालिकानगिरी 4टा डिस्ट्रिक्ट आप सुपरविजन करेंगे मासु 2 3 प्रति जी मुझे देखी टीचर माने खाते मिड डे मील दिस ऑफ द रेकॉर्ड आमे कहि परिबनी तुम कहीं खाऊ मोर स्टूडेंट बाहर कि तुम कहीं खाऊ ना सर आज भूख लगे तो मैंने नहीं इट इज फॉर स्टूडेंट्स नॉट फॉर द टीचर if it is reported that teacher will be suspended because I could see because they were my students the actual they will not give you हाँ सर पिला सब पाउछ 100% हम कई केते जगह 100 पिला आस्तिबे देखा 150 पिला पढ़ते मिड डे मील now this is all about administrative problem so if such kind of problems are there then don't select that because you are a student who will give you all the type of data they will not give you therefore when they do not give don't go for selecting that problem so therefore when the problem is selected then you can ask yourself you have to make a statement of the problem exact statement for example your broad area is, I'm coming down your broad area is can anyone tell me broad area then I can tell you the problem any one of you from any broad area के जने कहबो गोटे ब्रॉड एरिया आमे कोड रिसर्च करि तमे तो करबो ना ठीक भाबो गोटे को के कहबो आमे कोन एरिया
ऊपर किछ परिबो एनईपी 2020 ऊपर किछ चैलेंजेस जो आछे वर्तमान किछ न थाई कि जो हम इंप्लीमेंट हे गला जा पर बहुत उडा के प्रॉब्लम होची स्कूल रे ऊपर बोली
ठीक अछि हला कान जदी हमरे नेशनल पॉल्यूशन एजुकेशन हे गला तने हमर ब्रॉड एरिया कोन ब्रॉड एरिया कोन हला इंडियन एजुकेशन
सर
ब्रॉड एरिया ना इंडियन एजुकेशन बा इंडिजिनस सिस्टम ऑफ एजुकेशन ऑल लाइफ ये जो कहले हम रंजन कहउछंती जे बहुत तर्क चली बहुत डिबेट होउची बहुत डिस्कशन चली जे 20 नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 2020 ऊपर आमे कोन करबा हां हबो आमे कि तमे करबोनी तमे करबे तमे की ग्रहण करियो तमे तम था की सुनिबो किंतु हमर पीएचडी फेटे कल सुविधा हबो किंतु तम पाई कहूची जे पचारलो अच्छा यार कोन दिगो नबा अच्छा जदी तमे एनईपी पढिथिबो तार होची चारिटा अध्याय 4 चैप्टर्स रंजन पढ़ी के पढ़िছো कि तमे
डिटेल्स पढ़िनी सर डिटेल्स पढ़िनी
ओवरऑल डिटेल ना पढ़ो कहना मु 7-8 जाय लागी से एनईपी रे कहूची विक्रम देव यूनिवर्सिटी परमपुर यूनिवर्सिटी गोपालपुर कॉलेज डीपीआईसी कलिंगा बीडी कॉलेज ठीक अछि तार चारिटा चैप्टर चारिटा प्रथम हला कोन प्रथम हला प्राइमरी एजुकेशन से कथा कहगल सेकेंडरी स्कूल कहला तापर हायर एजुकेशन तापर टर्टियर एजुकेशन तापर कहला हाउ टू मेक इट हैपन माने कोन एई जो सब सजेशन दिया गला रेकमेंड दिया है एनईपी 20 रे सेटा किमी संभव हबो से गोटे कथा कहिसंती पढिबो जे इफ द गवर्नमेंट जीओआई गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया जीओआई इफ द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया स्पेंड्स 6% of the GNP total budgetary provision on education then the recommendations which have been made will be possible ये कहले जहाँ सब आम रेकमेंड करदेलु जदि सरकार भारत सरकार तांको बजेट रो 6% जीएनपी रो 6% शिक्षा ऊपर खर्च करिवे एबे हमर खर्च हो 4.2 और 3 जब 6% खर्च करिवे ताने हमर सजेशन गुडी काम दो अदरवाइज नॉट धरी न से कहते हायर एजुकेशन ले कौन ना मल्टी डिसिप्लिन यूनिट मेरू मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी यूनिवर्सिटी माने कौन धरी न तुम गोटे यूनिवर्सिटी चिंता कर ब्रह्मपुर यूनिवर्सिटी पर उत्कल हो पारे कौन एटी खाली साइंस आर्ट्स कॉमर्स ये कोच एमएससी ये न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी कला कौन नहीं सेठी मेडिकल कॉलेज रहिबो सेठी बीडी कॉलेज रह ता भितरे कैंपस भितरे बीडी को रहिबो मेडिकल कैंप रहिबो एग्रीकल्चर रहिबो इंजीनियरिंग रहिबो तापर ये लिबरल एजुकेशन रहिबो लिबरल एंड टेक्निकल टर्टियरी एकु सब रहिबो बहुत सिस्टम अछि ता भितरे हम जेरे तेना तमे जदि इफ यू आर इंटरेस्टेड इन न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 20 तुम को आस्पेक्ट नबो तमे नबो बालवाड़ी की प्री प्राइमरी एजुकेशन की एलिमेंटरी एजुकेशन की सेकेंडरी एजुकेशन की हायर सेकेंडरी एजुकेशन की यूनिवर्सिटी एजुकेशन की एग्रीकल्चर एजुकेशन कोन एरिया स्टडी करिवो यू आर इंटरेस्टेड नहीं परिवो रंजन हेई परिवो
सर 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 सर
आउ कोन हेई परिवो ना एटीट्यूड ऑफ टीचर्स एटीट्यूड ऑफ हम तक आउटी को बुझो एटीट्यूड ऑफ स्टेक होल्डर्स attitude of attitude of stakeholders towards the implementation of national education policy 2020. अरे stakeholder किए जो ने beneficiary
sir
हम
sir
teacher हेबे, parents हेबे, public
student
हेबे, students हेबे, political leaders हेबे, सब जो माने benefit होते ताकर attitude कौन तापर हम compare करिया काहर attitude कौन किए कौन कहूची हे परिबो अच्छा तार बहुत दिग अछि तापर हम करि परिया जे कुहाय छी समथिंग about your जो कहूछ कोन minority education of the minority Muslim girls women nomads किमी system कौन हबो like that इस तापर कुहाय छी public partnership education the public partnership education how what should be the proportion of public and government केते दबो private केते दबो जदि धर कंपनी दबो धरि कोन रिलायंस कंपनी दे परिबो बा जो मन अछथि ए जो सुता को इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट से मते इन्फ्लुएंस पकेबे ना सो देयर आर सम प्रॉब्लम मु जते पैसा दउची त मोर त पनि किछ कर्तृत्व रहइबो ना sometimes there will be some kind of commercialization ए जो सेल्फ फाइनेंस कोर्सेस चली सेल्फ फाइनेंस कोर्सेस पिला खाली टंका देउछथि ए पाठ पढा नाही टीचर नांती किछि नाही कोन चलछि पिला खाली हो हाउछथि so now whenever we are planning something we must decide is it okay so this is how you can identify a problem or is there any problem can I so practical जिंसो ए जो ब्लॉग टा पूरा practical तुम काम दबो तो dissertation करिवो निजे or is there any problem or no okay now you have identified the problem तमे कोन एरिया रे प्रॉब्लम रिसर्च करिवो you have identified
सर हमें केवल एजुकेशनल ग्राउंड रो ही प्रॉब्लम नहीं परिबो ना
हां
सर सर
नहीं एजुकेशन नबो एजुकेशन पुन अछि तार इंटरडिसिप्लिन एजुकेशन रिलेटेड टू सोशियोलॉजी धरि न ट्राइबल एरिया एजुकेशन करिबो नबो ट्राइबल प्लस एजुकेशन ट्राइबल डाला सोशियोलॉजी बा एंथ्रोपोलॉजी
सर
एटा हम इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी सेमिति फाइनेंसिंग ऑफ एजुकेशन फाइनेंसिंग ऑफ हायर एजुकेशन फाइनेंस माने इकोनॉमिक्स हायर एजुकेशन एजुकेशन हला एजुकेशन पार्ट तेनो एटा हला कोन कॉस्टिंग हला कोन इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी कि तुम माने पई खाली एजुकेशन नै जा तुमरो धरि न मु कहबा कथा कहि दउछी
सर
सेकेंड ईयर तुम जो पेपर नबो ना सेकेंड ईयर जो पेपर नबो
सर
स्पेशल पेपर नबो धरो हायर एजुकेशन की डिस्टेंस एजुकेशन की टीचर एजुकेशन
एजुकेशनल मैनेजमेंट
हैं
एजुकेशनल मैनेजमेंट भी उडो सर
मैनेजमेंट मैनेज तुम सिलेक्शन करि पारे और बढ़िया हो तुम कना से बही पढले तुम जानिबो एनी हाउ नाउ द प्रॉब्लम इज सिलेक्टेड सेकंड इज योर यूनिट 11 hypothesis now somebody may ask you why are you taking this problem now I want to study this problem so that I can solve the problems जने के पते आपण काहे की न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी ऊपर स्टडी करछोंती सेटु उत्तर केते तो उत्तर आसीओ मु ता भितर जिबिनी खाली गुटे दिया कहि दउची जे आमे देखिबा लोक माने याको केते दूर ग्रहण करछोंती टीचर माने कर ओपिनियन कोन स्टूडेंट माने कर रिएक्शन कोन पब्लिक माने कर इंप्रेशन कोन गवर्नमेंट का एटा पॉलिटिकल कला कि ना ए सब विभिन्न आसीओ तेना आमे हेले तुम जानछ कि नहीं जानि नहीं मु तो जाई थरे टीचर जाईथली जेते नुवा सो जानि था एते before the implementation of NEP 2020 एतो ड्राफ्ट हैला कस्तूरी ड्राफ्ट हैला से ड्राफ्ट हैला परे सब दिया गला वेबसाइट की यूजीसी वेबसाइट दिया गला गवर्नमेंट वेबसाइट इंडियन गवर्नमेंट वेबसाइट दिया गला जे लेट अस सी द रिएक्शन ऑफ पीपल भारत माने कर रिएक्शन कोन प्रतिक्रिया कोन से सब दिया देले लोक लक्ष लक्ष लोक देले जे एटा हेले भी असुविधा हबो एटा हेले सुविधा हबो एटा मिल देले on the basis of that some changes have been taken place anyhow तापर सब विभिन्न इंडिया रे विभिन्न दिगरे ईस्टर्न वेस्टर्न साउदर्न डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ डिबेट डिस्कशन हैला what could be the problems what are the strengths what are the limitations anyhow now let us come to hypothesis that means whenever you are going to study, to make a study, then you have your objectives. Otherwise, why should you take up the project? You have objective. Now, mostly in case of survey, in case of survey and the experimental type of research, already I have told you different methods of research. Maybe descriptive survey, maybe experimental, maybe philosophical, maybe your historical, like that. So, in case of descriptive survey and your experimental method, mostly hypothesis is essential. In case of historical and your philosophical, hypothesis is not important. But in this type of research, hypothesis is important. Then what is hypothesis? Hypothesis. Thesis माने उठ लिखिवा boy और thesis boy काता लिखिवा research लिखिवा. Hypo means less tentative. That means whatever we say, that is not final. It is we are thinking. जिमिति दिया जे हमारो original certificate देला पूर्व को दिया जे provisional certificate. That means it is a kind of certificate. It will work like certificate, but not original till the original certificate is given. In a person valid. Similarly, we are making a hunch. The other name of hypothesis is hunch, a shrewd guess, a conjecture. So therefore, these are different names. So hypothesis is an assumption or a proposition whose testability to be tested on the basis of compatibility. That means you are hypothesizing. For example, ମୁଁ ତମ ବୁଝେ ପାଇଁ କହି ଦଉଛି, ଏଟା ଜାଣିବା କଥା ଫଣ୍ଡାମେଣ୍ଟାଲ. ଧରି ନିଅ ଆମର ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ମୁଁ ଦେଖୁଛି 28 ଜଣ 30 ଜଣ ଖଣ୍ଡେ ଆଟେଣ୍ଡ କରିଛନ୍ତି କ୍ଲାସ, କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମର ଆଡମିସନ ହେଇତ ତମର MA ଏଜୁକେସନ ପିଲା କେତେ ହେଇଥିବେ ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ଇୟର? ପ୍ରାୟ 80-90-100 ହେଇଥିବେ, ମୁଁ ଜାଣି ନାହିଁ. ଧରି ନିଅ କାହିଁକିନା ପ୍ରଥମ ଦିନ ମୁଁ ଦେଖିଛି 67 ଲିଙ୍କରେ ଥିଲେ. ଯଦି 67 ଆଉ 5-10ଟା କମ ଆସିନଥିବେ, ତାହେଲେ 70-80, ତାହେଲେ 70-80ରୁ 25-30 ଜଣ ଆସିବା ମାନେ ଆସୁଛନ୍ତି ମାନେ କାହିଁ ଆସୁନାହାନ୍ତି? ତମ ଜଣେ ପଚାରେ କାହିଁ ଆସୁନାହାନ୍ତି? Hypothetical assumption କଣ ନା ସେମାନେ ସବୁ ଚାକିରି କରିଛନ୍ତି ସମୟ ପାଉନାହାନ୍ତି. This is one of the hypothesis. ମାନେ we are assuming, ଆମେ ଭାବୁଛୁ, assumption, we are not sure. Second ହେଇପାରେ କଣ, ତାଙ୍କର ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ନାହିଁ, କଣ ଗୋଟେ ଖାଲି ଆମେ ନାଁଟା ଲେଖିଦେଇଛି କଣ ପଢିକି ମୁଁ ନିଜେ ହେଲା. ଥାର୍ଡ ହେଇପାରେ କଣ ନା ମୁଁ ତ ସବୁ ଜାଣିଛି, ଏଟା ସାରା ଅଧିକ କଣ କହିଲା ବହି ତ ଅଛି ଆଉ. These are your hypothesis about the present problem. What is the present problem? The present problem is what makes more than 50% students who have been enrolled into the MA course through IGNOU are not attending the counseling classes. So therefore, you are thinking of, you are assuming. This is the proposition. You are thinking using intelligence, shrewd guess. Meaning, what is the meaning of shrewd? Intellectual, intelligently. Similarly, you are a teacher, for example. Somebody may ask you, Mr. X, a student, is not coming for the last 5 days. ତମର ଗୋଟେ ଛାତ୍ରଟିଏ ତା ନାଁ ହଉଛି ଧର ଏ, ସେ ଏ ଛାତ୍ରଟି ଆସୁନି 5 ଦିନ, କାରଣ କଣ? ଆପଣ ସାଇନ୍ସ ପଢୁଛନ୍ତି, ତା ଜ୍ୱର ହେଇଥିବ, ଆଉ ଜଣେ ଶିକ୍ଷକ ପଚରାଯିବ, ନା ସାର୍ ସେ ବୋଧେ ପାଠ ଛାଡ଼ିଦେଲା ବୋଧେ, ଆଉ ଜଣେ ଟିଚର ପଚରାଯିବ, ନା ସାର୍ ତାର ଚାକିରି କରିଲା, ଆହୁରି କିଏ କହିବ ସାର୍ ତାର ବାପା ମରିଗଲେ ଆଉ ପଢିବନି. So many statements about what? Statements about the absence of the student for 1 week. After 1 week, when the student came, then you ask him, Mr. Student, Mr. A, yes sir. Now for the last 7 days, for the last 1 week, you were absent. What is the reason? Na sir mo jara hitla. Ta mane ame onwa kiye kohta ta baagara gela, kiye kohta ar bapa mari gela. That means it was hypothetical. It was these hypothesis rejected. Jone kiye kohta je ta jara hitari. That statement is selected. So in that case, the hypothesis, the hypothesis is accepted. In other cases, it is rejected. So my point is, as a researcher, before going to the field, data collection kala purboru, before going to the field, we have to make some assumptions about the nature of the problem, because that solution of the problem can be through the hypothesis formulation. So hypothesis provides the solution to the problem. So therefore, hypothesis is a kind of juncture. Now, the question is, how can you formulate hypothesis? What are the sources? Again, the same thing I will not repeat. Experience. From your experience, when you are making assumption, you have a lot of experience. From experience, you can tell. Background knowledge, because you are a master in that field. For example, sir, ଆପଣ କହିପାରିବେ ତମେ ଯେମିତି ପଚାରିଲ ସାର୍ ଏନ୍ଇପି ର କଣ ଯେହେତୁ ମୁଁ ସେତ କିଛି କିଛି କାମ କରିଛି, ମୁଁ ଯାଇଛି କୋଉଠି ଆଟେଣ୍ଡ କରିଛି କହିଛି, ତେଣୁ ମୁଁ କହିପାରିଲି. So that background knowledge, if you are an expert in that field, you can tell, it can help you to hypothesize. Versatile intellect, because you are an intellectual man, you have intelligence, you are using that. Then analogies. What is analogy? Similar situation. Similar situation. If it is happening here, the same thing may happen there. For example, ଆମେ ଷ୍ଟଡି କଲେ ଯେ ଜେନେରାଲ ପିଲାଙ୍କର କାହିଁ ପିଲାମାନେ ସ୍କୁଲ ଆସୁନାହାନ୍ତି, କାରଣ କଣ ହେଲା? 1 2 3 4 କାରଣ ହେଲା. ତେଣୁ ଆମେ ବି ସେ କହିପାରିବା ଯେ ଟ୍ରାଇବାଲ ପିଲାଙ୍କର ଡ୍ରପ ଆଉଟ୍ ମାନେ ଏଇ କାରଣ ହବ, ବିକଜ ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ ହ୍ୟାପେନିଂ ହିୟର, ଇଟ୍ ମାଇଟ୍ ବି ହ୍ୟାପେନିଂ ହିୟର ଦେୟାର, ଆମେ ଭାବୁଛୁ. ତେଣୁ ଆମେ କହିଦେଲେ, ଆପଣ କେମିତି ଜାଣିଲେ? ନା ସେଠି ସେ ହଉଥିଲା. ଯଦି ସେଇ ଗାଁର ପିଲା ଲୋକମାନେ କୂଅ ପାଣି ପିଇକି ତାଙ୍କର ଝାଡା ବାନ୍ତି ହେଲା, ଆମେ କହି ଯୋଉ ଝାଡା ବାନ୍ତି ହେଲା ଆମେ କହି ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆପଣ ଝାଡା ବାନ୍ତି ହଉଛି ନା, ଆପଣ କୂଅ ପାଣି ପିଇଥିବେ. So this is how you can formulate hypothesis analogy. Then scientific theories. There are many theories. They are based upon scientific investigation. You take any theory in psychology, in sociology, any theory. For example, in your book, in your material, it is given. For example, a researcher working on modification of teacher behavior may be benefited by the Skinnerian theory of behavior shaping. Skinner had talked about, B.F. Skinner, Bandura F. Skinner, he talked about operant conditioning. From the operant conditioning, he tried to develop linear programming. That is your learning theory. That is your, not linear only, all the learning theory, that is program learning. So program learning is the learning theory is the contribution of your Skinner. So therefore, Skinnerian theory of learning can help you while you are studying the learning, any aspect of learning. Similarly, another is your authentic knowledge. Authentic means which you believe that it is quite genuine. So that knowledge can help you. For example, I am not a man of science. So anything which I talk about related to science, it is not authentic. You are a man of science. You can tell better. So that is authentic knowledge. So now, with this background, let us come to the types of hypothesis. Types of hypothesis. Because those who are interested in survey type research or experimental research, hypothesis, formulation of hypothesis is important. Then one way to look at this is given directional hypothesis and non-directional hypothesis. What is that? When you are, what is a hypothesis? It is a statement. Hypothesis is a statement showing the relationship between two variables. Now, when you are formulating hypothesis, if it is stipulating a direction, then that is directional. So it has been written here, the hypothesis which stipulate, hypothesis singular, hypothesis plural, hypothesis which stipulate the direction of the expected differences or relationships are termed as directional hypothesis. Example is given. There is positive relationship between the academic achievement and study habit students. Positive, not negative. So direction is given. There is a relationship between intelligence and study habits. But what kind of relation? Positive, not negative. So direction is given. Thereby it is directional hypothesis. Similarly, non-directional. That means when there is no direction, direction is not stipulated, specified. Example, there is significant difference between boys and girls in their mathematical ability. So what is this? There is significant difference in between the boys and girls in mathematical ability. It says that boys and girls, they do differ significantly, sizably, they differ. But whether boys are mathematically more able or girls are more able, it is not mentioned. Only difference is there. But I can make it directional. This is non-directional. There is significant difference between boys and girls in mathematical ability or in scientific temper. This is an example of non-directional hypothesis. I can make it directional. It is non-directional. Boys will have more mathematical ability than girls. That means boys are more. The direction is given. No difference between boys and girls in mathematical ability. This is non-directional, non-direction. When you say boys from rural areas are better, are more performer in mathematics than the boys from urban area, तामाने जो पुओ माने urban area आछुंती तांको अपेक्षा गाँ र पुओ माने भलो mathematical ability अछि तांको कोइ देले तामाने गाँ पिला मा सपोर्ट रे गला. This is directional. Is it clear? Directional, non-directional. Acha. Then another is your declarative hypothesis. We declare a hypothesis can either be declarative or null form. Declarative form or null form. When you are declaring. So when the researcher makes a positive statement about the outcome of the study, the hypothesis takes the declarative form. For example, the attitude of parents in the rural areas towards co-education at the primary level is significantly negative in comparison to the attitude of parents or urban area. This is declared. You have declared positive, anchor positive, anchor negative. Now null form means no. There is no significant difference between boys and girls in their creativity. No. So when you say no, no means negative. No, no means null. N-U-L, null means no. What is that no? No, null means there will be no difference between the two population means. You take the mean of a large number of group, you take a mean of another large number of group within the broader group. You will find that there will be no difference. That is what you are telling. Null hypothesis. Now, when you are formulating hypothesis, you must see that it is formulated in a proper way. So that it can become a good hypothesis. So what are the, how can you say that the hypothesis which you have formulated is a good hypothesis? So therefore, there are certain characteristics of good hypothesis. Number one, it must be testable. That means the statement which proposes the relationship between two variables must be measurable. If a hypothesis is not testable, then it becomes difficult for the researcher to either confirm or contradict. If test, test करते हमें कोई बाना is it accepted or is it rejected? So therefore, it should be testable. One example is given. Education brings all-round development. If this is a hypothesis, education brings about all-round development. Now the question is, what is that all-round development? How can it be measured? So it is very difficult. Therefore, it cannot be. It is not a good hypothesis. There is a positive relationship between the learning style and academic achievement of 9th grade students or 8th grade. This is a good hypothesis because it stipulates the relationship between two variables, learning style and academic achievement. So therefore, it can help you for a testing. Second characteristics of a good hypothesis is it must state the expected relationship between two variables. there is a positive correlation between so height and weight. For example, there is a positive relationship between study habits and motivation. So relationship, two variables are there. The third, it must suggest a tentative solution to the problem. Yes, because you are hypothesizing on the basis of your problem, and through the testing of hypothesis, you can solve your problems. Solutions. You can solve your problems. Then next is it must be clear and stated in precise manner. Stated in precise manner. For example, you want to study the relationship between intelligence and achievement. For example, how can you? The question is, how can you understand the intelligence of students? You have to measure. There are many tests of intelligence. Now here you have to write which intelligence test you have written. Sorry, which intelligence test you have selected. So while you are formulating hypothesis, you can say there is a positive relationship between intelligence as measured by Raven's progressive matrix. This is one of tests. Or there is a positive relationship between intelligence as measured by, say, Jalota and academic achievement. Academic achievement as measured by student performance in annual examination. So that this is clear. Then the hypothesis should be limited in scope. If the hypothesis is full, the scope is very lengthy, very high, then it will take time, and sometimes it is very difficult to test the hypothesis. Then a hypothesis must be consistent with most known facts. Whenever you are formulating a hypothesis, how do you formulate? From your knowledge, from the professional literature. So you must make a statement which you call your hypothesis. It must not contradict the earlier findings. So whenever you are formulating a hypothesis, it must be consistent. It must be consonant with the earlier findings of the theory. Then a hypothesis must explain what intent to explain. So always when you are formulating a hypothesis, it must explain what you want to solve your problem. What you want to do through your hypothesis. And next, the variable should be defined operationally. That means unless the variable under study is not defined properly operationally, for example, in creativity, intelligence. What do we mean by intelligence? Intelligence means many things. For example, intelligence has been talked about in terms of ability. Vinay say it is a learning ability, but Tormen say it is a kind of abstract thinking. Now you have to say, in my research, intelligence as a term connotes, means an ability to learn. Clear? It is not abstract thinking. It is not a way of solving the problem. It is a question of learning, memorization. So operational defined. It must be based on some relevant theory or discovered truth. Yes. Now, on what basis you have developed as a researcher? On what basis you have developed the hypothesis? Already I have told you there are many sources. One of the sources is your theory. For example, you are doing research in the area of learning. So there are many theories on learning, theories of learning. So therefore, whatever the learning theory says, accordingly you should formulate the hypothesis. Last one is the hypothesis should amenable to testing within a reasonable time. If the scope of the hypothesis is very high, large, then it will take time, 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, 5. So you may die. There is no time. You are a student. You cannot wait for 4 years. So you want a degree. So therefore, it should be within 1 year, within 6 months, like that. So therefore, since hypothesis, if tested, they can help the researcher to solve the problem. Therefore, it gives direction to the researcher. Therefore, it is important. So this is all about your hypothesis. Is it clear, or is there any doubt? My students, any doubt regarding hypothesis?
No, sir.
No. Thank
No,
you.
sir.
Okay, then. Please read, go through the material, then it can clarify. Okay. Gradually, you will see the problem is identified. You have selected the problem. It is a good problem, for example. Now your objective and hypothesis have been formulated. Next is you have to collect information. From whom? From maybe from the teacher, as one of your friends telling regarding national education policy. Maybe from the students, maybe from the teachers, maybe from the administrators, like that. Maybe from the political leaders. So that is what we call unit of study. Unit of study. Now the whole unit becomes your population. The large number of cases that constitute your population. Since you have no time, less time, if you collect information from all the entire unit, then it will be costly, it will be time taking. Therefore, almost all the researchers, they try to select a small number of people. That is known as sample. So sample is a small portion of the large one. For example, symbolically, capital N, small n. Capital N, that is your universe, population. Small n is equal to sample. So we can say capital, can we not say like this? Capital N is equal to small n1, small 1 plus small n2 plus small n3 plus small n4 plus nn. Means, let me give you an example, numerical example. You want to study the problems of elementary school teachers, not male or female, elementary school teachers of Digapani block or any one block, Sanakamani block. Now, how many teachers are there in Sanakamani block or in that block? Say 5, for example, 5,000. That 5,000 becomes your population or universe. That is capital N. Now, under that block, there may be 20 panchayat, something like that, 10 panchayat. Now, N1, how many teachers? N1, panchayat 1. How many teachers, elementary school teachers are there? Say 200. So, N1 means 200 plus N2 means another panchayat, 150 plus, like N1 plus N2, put together, sum total becomes 5,000. এই যে 5,000 না ହେଲା ସେ ଆମ ସେ କୋଉ ଗୋଟେ particular ବ୍ଲକ ମାନେ ତା ଅନ୍ତର କେତେ ପଞ୍ଚାୟତ ଅଛି, ତେଣୁ ସବୁ ପଞ୍ଚାୟତକୁ ଟିଚର ମିଶେଇଲେ 5,000 ହବ। ସବୁ ପଞ୍ଚାୟତ ମିଶିଲେ କଣ ହଉଛି ନା ବ୍ଲକଟା ହଉଛି। ସବୁ ପଞ୍ଚାୟତ ଟିଚର ମିଶିଲେ କଣ ହବ, ସେଇ ଟିଚର ସେଇ ବ୍ଲକର। ସିମିଲାରଲି ଆମେ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ବଡ କରିଦବା। You want to study the problems of elementary school teachers of Odisha. Now, Odisha has 3 revenue division, RDC, revenue division, northern, southern, western. Northern, southern, western, or central, something like that. Now, some districts are, southern district, kiye achandi? Na, Puri, Ganjam, Phulbani, Ganjam, Koraput, Kolan, this is southern part. Northern part like on Baleshwar, Moyurubhanj, Keonjhar, Sambalpur, Central only Kotak, Kendrapada, Jagatsinghpur, Dhenkanal, Anugul, like that. Now, what can you do? If you put together in Odisha, there may be 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs or 5 lakhs elementary school teachers. Now, it is not possible. If it is possible, also it is very costly, it is time taking. If you collect information, therefore, what can you do? Instead of 5 lakhs, you are taking 1,000, 2,000, like that. That 1,000 or 2,000 is your sample. So let us discuss. That is unit 2, sampling. Can you tell me what is the difference between sample and sampling? Before making a detailed analysis, let us understand what is the difference between sample and sampling. Sampling is the technique which is used to get the sample. आमे जो 500 लोग पाइले 5000 रु किमिति पाइले ना, we are adapting a technique. So sampling techniques are there, probability sampling, non-probability sampling technique. We'll discuss. Now already I have told you a population is a group of individuals like that, a large number of people. A sample is a small portion of population selected for a study. So this is population and sample. Now the question is, since the researcher is conducting the field study on the sample from the population, not on the population, from the population, the sample is drawn. Now the question is, how can we draw the sample from the population, from the large one? How the small portion can be drawn from the large portion? कहूथिल ना माँ जेते बेले जने के कहबो माँ को झिरे गलो देखिलु भात हांडी बसला भात हैला कि नहीं, आमे सब भात चिपिबानी, गोटे चामच पुरै देबा, चामच पुरै दे भात चामच भात आनिबा ताको चिपिबा, यदि भात ठीक चामच भात ठीक अछि, now we can declare the whole dish is all right. तेने भात हांडीटा पूरा भात भल ठीक अछि. Similarly, that spoonful of rice is the sample. See, handita hochi population, a spoon la bhatata la sample. Anyhow, now we have to draw the sample. How can you draw? By using some technique. That procedure technique is known as sampling technique. The technique which is used to draw the sample for the study is known as sampling technique. Can be of two types. One is probability sampling, another is non-probability sampling. What is probability sampling? It is based on some statistical procedures, a large number. So it is written here. Probability sampling is based on some statistical concepts like law of large number or central limit theorem and normal distribution. Then if it is there, then we call it probability sampling. In case of probability sampling, every individual has the equal chance of being selected. Then what is non-probability sampling? When the sample is drawn on the basis of the judgment of the researcher. There is no criteria, there is no statistical consideration. So it is written, the non-probability methods are based on the judgments of the investigator as the most important element. Judgment of the researcher, nothing like that. The guiding principle in non-probability method are availability of the subject. Subject means student, the learners, the units, the personal judgment of the investigator and convenience, like that. Now, we have two types of sampling technique. One is probability sampling technique, another is non-probability sampling. Under your probability sampling, we have simple random sampling technique, systematic random sampling technique, then stratified random sampling, then cluster random sampling, and multi-stage or multi-phase sampling. These are 5 types of sampling under your probability sampling. Now, first type is your simple random sampling. Randomly means in case of random sampling technique, an equal everyone has the equal chance of being selected. So therefore, either you can use lottery method or random table method. For example, you want to conduct a study in your particular block, either on teachers or students. Now, what can you do? You can write down the total number of students or total number of teachers alphabetically. A, B, C, D, any name, Arati, Ananda, like alphabetically. Say 1 lakh students are there. You want to take only 500. Now, make a lottery. Find out, can you know? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 लिखा है 5 लाख पिला छथि गुळा उठा गुळा कान सीरियल नंबर 225 तुम 1 तुम केते पिला नबो 500 देन नेक्स्ट 102 ए को सब लॉटरी मेथड काढिबो 500 दैट इज योर रैंडम सैंपलिंग टेक्निक अच्छा more better than random sampling technique is your random table number. So there are certain random numbers, horizontal, row wise, column wise. What you can do is you can select any one row, any one column, and as per your requirement, you can select the number. For example, for your understanding, I can take the example. The example is given in your material. The required number of units are selected from the third table in any convenient and systematic way. The example is given. Now, suppose we have to select 20 distance learners like you, 20 distant learners for interview from 80 distant learners registered at a study center. धर तुम एमए एजुकेशन 200 पिला छथि आमे 50 टा पिला हमरो करिया स्टडी करिया एठी कहला 20 डिस्टेंस लर्नर्स आउट ऑफ 80 80 जन ना लेखिचंती आमे सबु नबा आमे 20 जन नबा तने कोन 20 जन नबा वी आर फॉलोइंग द रैंडम टेबल नंबर नाउ वी मे स्टार्ट विथ एनी कॉलम एंड एनी रो आखि बंद करी पके दबो because we want 20 numbers 2 digit. So therefore we have to select it's a random table the 23 15 0554 it's of date then amar hochi kon naba 2 digit naba then 23 24 25 imch naba kintu 80 ru adhika ho no number ta sei manu select kariya kahi ki na 80 hochi amar population total population 80 amar total pila admission करछ 80 sample ame 20 then amar population to adhika hai periyo na then amar any serial number 2 digit serial number धरी ना कहूची मु कहि दउची एठी पढ दउची अछि हमर कलम अछि 23 प्रथम अछि सीरियल नंबर 1 2315 0554 1487 3897 9731 1174 4366 9380 एसो अछि तेन बर्तन आमे कोन करबा 2 digit लेफ्ट साइड रो अछि लेफ्ट साइड 2 डिजिट एवं 80 तारु कम हेइथियो धरि नि प्रथम लागन 2315 माने 23 हैला 80 खान हैला एको नबा ई हैला 05 नबा तबर 1487 14 अछि नबा 3897 38 नबा एई रो अछि 9731 डबल डिजिट 97 80 रो अधिक हैला ये पिला हमर सैंपल हबनी एको नबानी 1174 नबानी सॉरी नबा 4336 43 नबा then 938 जो आमे न 80 रो अधिक हैला तेनो एमिति आमे कोन करबा हम जति को रिक्वायर्ड नंबर 20 आमे इको नै जिबा सो दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल योर रैंडम टेबल मेथड इज इट क्लियर okay then another type of sampling technique is your systematic sampling. What is that systematic sampling? A variation of the random process of sampling is the systematic sampling. It is the selection of the required number of sample elements of the population to include in the sample. It involves, when you are doing your systematic sampling, it involves listing the population elements in some order. पूरा से लोगों को ना गुटे ऑर्डर लिखिबा डिटरमिनिंग द डिजायर नंबर तबे हमें केते नंबर सैंपल हमें केते सैंपल हम धर 1000 लोक अछंती हजुर हमें 100 नबा उदाहरण देछ 100 नबा सो डिटरमिन द डिजायर number to be selected from the population that is 10% of the 1000 our sample our population is 1000 हमें कहले हम 10% नबु तने 1000 10% माने 100 so out of 1000 our sample is 1000 is the population so sample is 100 now how the question is how can we get that 100 sample out of 1000 how can we get that 100 sample so this is the answer starting with any number starting with any number from among the number 1 to 10. Why it is 1 to 10? 10% of 1 to 10, that is 1 to k, that is called k, both inclusive. To select every 10th, that is kth, 10th element from list. If the number chosen from 1 to 10 is 4, हम 1 ରୁ 10 ଭିତରେ ନବା 4, ତାହେଲେ 4th ହେଲେ ତାପରେ 10 ମିଶେଇବା 14th, 4, 14th, 24th, 34th, 44th, 54th, 64th, ଏମିତି କରିକି ଆମେ କଣ କରିବା ଆମର 100 ସାମ୍ପଲ ମାନେ ସିରିयल ନମ୍ବର କରିଦେବା। 4th ମାନେ 4 ସିରିयल ନମ୍ବର 4 ସିଲେକ୍ଟ ହେଲା ସାମ୍ପଲ, ତାପରେ 14 ନମ୍ବର ସିରିयल ହେଲା ସିଲେକ୍ଟେड, 24 ସିଲେକ୍ଟେड ହେଲା, 34 ସିଲେକ୍ଟେड ହେଲା। ଏଇ କଣ ହେଇକି ଆମର କଣ ହବ ନା out of 1000 100 students will be selected and that 100 will be our sample. This is your systematic sample. That is, we will first decide kth 10%, 5%. If 5% ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା then 20%, 20 like that. Stratified sampling. Now we can, what is the meaning of stratified? Classification, division. Here the term stratified is self-explanatory. It involves dividing the population into such sub-population, sub-units, strata, that each one of them is homogeneous. So therefore, the steps involved in these are steps: deciding upon one or more characteristics on the basis of which strata will be formed. I mean, urban and rural, that is location of the school, rural area or urban area or semi-urban area, boys school, girls sex, boys school, girls school, government school, aided school, like that. ଦେଇକି ତାପରେ ଆମର ଆମେ କଣ କରିବା ନା ଯେତିକି ପପୁଲେସନ ଧରି ନିଅ ଆମର 50ଟି ପୁଅ ପିଲା 50ଟି ଝିଅ ପିଲା ଦରକାର, ଏଠୁ 50ଟି ନେଇଯିବା ମେଲ, ଫିମେଲ 50ଟି ନେଇଯିବା, rural ଧର rural 25, urban 25. This is how we can do stratified on the basis of division, on the basis of classification. Another is your cluster sampling. Sometimes when the population is finite, that means when we know finite means what? When we know the population, I mean population jale to list kari pariba na, that is sampling frame. Mane we can list down the numbers of people. Jodi population jani paribani kon kariba, ame cluster sampling jiba. That has been written. When listing of population or at least the total strength of the population is possible and available, or in other words, when the population is finite. Finite means the population is available or the population strength is known, then that is finite. Then we can make use of simple random sampling, systematic or stratified sampling. But when the population is not finite, when it is not finite, infinite, that means we do not know how many people are there, how many students are there. In that case, we can use cluster sampling. You know, cluster school, some schools are under one school. A cluster sampling is used when the population under study is relatively infinite, where the list of the elements is not available. List is not available. List nahi. Therefore, a cluster is an intact group as available in the field. It is not formed by the researcher for the purpose of data collection. For example, a school complex, a group of school, a school complex is a cluster. So instead of going to that school, this school, we can go to the main school. That main school can help you in collecting data. Another is your multi-stage and multi-phase sampling. Multi-stage, different stages. For example, you want to study the problems of women teachers in Odisha, in your state. Now, what can you do? You can divide multi-state. Say from western Odisha, from southern Odisha, from northern Odisha. Northern means your Keonjhar, Baleshwar, Bhadrak. Western Odisha, your Sundargarh, Sambalpur, Jharsuguda, Baragad, like that. Southern Odisha, from your Ganjam, Fulubani, your Korapur, something like that. From your central zone, Kotak, like that. Kotak, Dhakanar, like that. Now you can decide, you can first stage of division, state, that is your division, RDC. Then from RDC, you can select your districts. From the district, you can select the school. From the school, you can select the teachers. So this is multi-stage, many stages of selecting the sample. Now let me read out, you can understand. In the multi-stage sampling selection of different types of sampling units such as districts in a state, taluk or place in those districts, and then some schools is involved, subdivision, division, computer, like that. So this is multi-stage sampling. Another term is multi-phase. So this is the main multi-stage sampling. Out of the total sample, you are interested to make some in-depth study. So therefore, you are taking 10 to 20 people for your interview. That 10 to 20 is your multi-phase sampling. So multi-phase is a part of multi-stage. So there is no much difference. This is all about your probability sampling. There are two types of sampling technique. One is probability sampling technique, and another is non-probability. So this is all about the probability. Then non-probability. What is probability? The probability sampling technique is based on certain statistical considerations. But non-probability sampling technique is based on the opinion of the researcher, judgment of the researcher. There is no scientific reason. So one kind of non-probability sampling is your incidental sampling. Incidental sampling. What is that incidental? That means whichever is convenience. If you want to collect data, you are not going here and there. You are collecting data from your school. It is convenient. Incidental sampling is also known as accidental or convenient sampling. When a readily or easily available group is selected as sample, it is known as incidental. That is incident. You are making judgment. Another is kintu a प्रकार sample कौन होगा ना finding उड़ा के बेसिक ठीक होगा नहीं. Then purposive sampling. जेतल तुम purpose serve कर सी sample हम से गुना धर हमरो tribal पिलांग पर काम हो जो tribal पिलांग मत purpose sampling हिला. Another non-probable sampling method is purpose sampling. In this method, samples are expressly, you are knowingly, expressly chosen because in the light of available information, they resemble some larger group. So therefore, for example, mostly in case of your experimental design, the sample is purposive. Because you take the entire class of your school, you are not taking from here and there. So therefore, it is known as purposive sampling. Now, when you have selected the sample by using any method, either probability or non-probability, that depends upon the nature of the study, then how can you be sure that your sample which has been selected by following certain procedure, technique, sampling technique, is quite a good sample? So there are certain characteristics it is given of a good sample. It is free from error due to the bias. That means when there is no bias, but in case of a non-probable sampling, there is bias. तमें कहते हैं मो पाखर स्कूल नहीं जिम्मे बायस है ना आरो तुम स्कूल भल पिला थाई पारती से स्कूल खराब पिला थाई पारती. So when there is no biasness, prejudices, not deliberate, there is no substitution of originality selected unit. If there is no substitution of unit by some other convenient way, then it is okay. That means it is to be selected. But you feel, no, it is very difficult to get the information. Let me go for something else. No, it is not possible. Then if you are doing it, it is not a good sample. It does not suffer from incomplete coverage. So you must make a full coverage. Then it represents the population. Yes. For example, out of 5,000, your population, you might require 100 or 200, that is sample, doesn't matter. But the way you have selected 100 out of 500, 5,000, that should be representative. Your sample should be representative. Therefore, you must have certain principles. It is adequate or sufficient in size to allow confidence. Yes, if the number of sample is sizable, then our findings will be conclusive, otherwise not. So this is all about your sample. The last unit is of this block is your tools and techniques of data collection. Because you want to conduct your study, for that reason you require some kind of information, evidences. Now the question is, how can we get the evidences? So by using certain tools and techniques. So that has been talked about in unit 3. So let us discuss. Now, tool and technique. So what are the tools it has been talked about? In your self-initial material, questionnaire, rating scale, attitude scale, checklist, test, inventory. So these are the 6 type of tools which can be used for data collection. Techniques, interview and observation. Interview and observation, these are the 2 techniques which can be used by the researcher for collecting data. Now first let us come to a questionnaire. What is a questionnaire? Certain questions are there. What are the questions? Questions relevant, questions related to your theme, related to your objective study. So let us discuss. A questionnaire is an important instrument in normative survey research being used to gather information. So therefore, Barr and others, 53 define questionnaire. Questionnaire as a systematic compilation of questions. Systematically the questions are compiled one by one. Compilation of questions that are submitted to a sampling of population from which information is desired. Its scope is very vast. It has been used for studying a wide range of problems. That means, for example, you want to study the problems of women teachers. Problems of women teachers working in the elementary or secondary schools. Now you should define what does problem mean. So what would be, this is the framework. You must first have a framework. What are the possible problems? Put together 3 or 4 headings. Say for example, personal problem. For example, administrative problem. For example, professional problem. For example, academic problem. Now, in your study, you are considering only 4 problems. Now, first, in the questionnaire, you write what is the purpose for which this questionnaire is prepared. You give a kind of sensation to the respondent, so that I can read and I can be inspired to respond. Then after that, we have 4 areas of problem. First is personal. Then section A, question personal problems. Number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, 9. And the second personal patra. Then B, professional problems. आपन पाठ पढ़ाइला बेले कोन असुविधा पिला माने आपन सुनती नाही, शिक्षक आपन इच्छा आपन कहबा अनुसार पाठ दियंती नाही, रोटिले आपन प्रथम पर देकी शिक्षक हरान, लाइक दैट. Professional training program जानती कि नहीं, yes no type of question. Then third, so personal problem, professional problem, academic problem, some question. Then administrative problem, some question, like that. So this is how total 40 questions. These 40 questions all are related to the problems of women teachers. From that we can get it. There are 2 types of questionnaire. One is a structure, versus non-structure. Another is closed form or open form. Structure or non-structure means sometimes we prepare the questions we give to the respondent. যেটা উত্তর দেব respondent we call it ये गुटे पर বা sometimes ଆମେ ଜାଣନ୍ତି ଅଧିକା क्वेश्चन କିଛି ବାହାରିବ ଆମେ କଣ କରନ୍ତି ସେଠୁ ନନ୍ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଚର ଆମେ କିଛି क्वेश्चन ତିଆରି କରନ୍ତିନି ଆମେ ଖାଲି ଭାବି ଯାଆନ୍ତି ଏଇ क्वेश्चन ପଚାରିବା ସେଠି ପଚାରନ୍ତି ସିଏ ବି ରେସ୍ପଣ୍ଡ ଅଧିକା ନୂଆ क्वेश्चन କିଛି କହେ ଆମେ ତାକୁ ବି ଇନକ୍ଲୁଡ କରିବା ନନ୍ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଚର closed form open form. For example, are you married? If you are married, that is yes or no. Are you married? Yes or no. If you are married, yes, think Mario. If you are not married, no. Isn't it? This is closed form. Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied with your salary? तमें तुम्हारा दरवान सहित जहाँ दरवान पाऊजो तुम खुशी की yes or no. A closed. Yes or no अधे किछ नहीं. Open form कौन? आमे कहते मुझे कहते women problems of women teachers आमे दबा आपण कौन कले कौन सरकार पदक्षेप नेले बा कौन प्रशासनिक स्तर रे कौन पदक्षेप नेले आपण ए विभिन्न समस्या गुडी समाधान हेई परियो ताको निम्न दर्शांतु 1 2 3 4 5 6 लिखिबो दिस इज योर ओपन एंडेड सिमिलरली कौन पदक्षेप नेले हमरे नुआ शिक्षा नीति की आमे हम स्कूल ले सुचारू रूपे व्यवहार करि परिबा 1 2 3 4 इस ओपन एंडेड देयर इज नो फिक्स्ड तमे 5टा कले मु 10टा कली दिस इज ओपन एंडेड सो देयर इज क्वेश्चन देखि दबो सिरागो when you have prepared the questionnaire how can you know that it is a good questionnaire so characteristics are there a good question deals with significant topic तमे जो टॉपिक नहीं जो सेही टॉपिक रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन से पचारिबो द आइटम शुड टेल समथिंग रिलेटेड टू अ टॉपिक it seeks not only data which can be obtained from the books it is seeks only that data which cannot be obtained from the books माने हमको क्वेश्चन इमिन पचारे पड़िबो जोडा बहिरे मिलिबोनी सेटे तांक पाक से पिलाम देबे it is short as possible लंबा क्वेश्चन कले कार धैर्य नाही 3 घंटा 4 घंटा की देबो आधा घंटे 45 मिनट भीतर आंसर तब तब नन का धैर्य रहिबो इट इज अट्रैक्टिव इन अपीयरेंस नीटली अरेंज जो क्वेश्चन हो ना गोटे भली टाइप फाइप करा जाइथिबो भली हेतिबो हमरो जेरक्स हेतिबो सुंदर देख गोटे उत्तर दब इट कंटेंट डायरेक्शन बिफोर द क्वेश्चन यार सो लिखा हेतिबो एटा आधा घंटा भीतर दवा पड़े समय लिखा हेतिबो एटा कौन पर्पज कौन डिटेल लिखा जो आपनकर किसी असुविधा हबो नाही एटा कहा कुआ जीवो नाही दिस इज स्ट्रिक्ट कॉन्फिडेंशियल इट इज टू बी यूज्ड फॉर रिसर्च पर्पस दीज आर टू बी रिटन सो डबल नेगेटिव क्वेश्चन शुड नॉट बी यूज्ड या न होइते से न हेइतांते कोन करथाने एमिति क्वेश्चन से पचारबे डबल नो लाइक दैट देन अनदर इज योर रेटिंग स्केल another kind of tool rating what is rating scale is a device for obtaining judgments of the degree to which an individual possesses certain behavior or trait and attribute not readily detectable that means by using test it cannot be possible basically in case of our behavioral if you want to measure behavior teaching efficiency like that rating scale can be used for example आमे पिलांग पचारि दाने शिक्षक पढेले से भलो पढेले कि नाही खरा पढेले किमि जानिबा आमे पिला टीचर पचारि आगे आपण भलो पढेले से तो निश्चय कहबो पिलांग पचारिबा हम रेटिंग स्केल दबा योर टीचर इन द लास्ट पीरियड ही हैज टॉट यू साइंस और इंग्लिश और ओडिया यू आर टीचिंग लाइक दिस सो आर यू हैप्पी with the teaching method he has followed rating करियो strongly agree on हां मते भल लागिला नहीं भल लाग और भल सो 3-4 पॉइंट खन दबा त स्केल पॉइंट दबा से तो ई करियो जदी भल पड़ो बहुत भल पड़े strongly agree बहुत भल पढ़ेले चलिबो पढ़ेले मैनेजेबल केते पिला कना cannot से कने पिला खरा हबी like that so this is rating A scale is used to rate the behavior. Maybe numerical number through 1 2 3 4 5 but description I जो कहली भल पढुले खराब पढु हम थिबो एको सब रैंकिंग करिबा तापर आसिला हमरो attitude scale. What is attitude? Scale is through scale we are measuring attitude scale. So what is attitude? According to your bar and others, an attitude may be defined as a learned emotional response set for or against something. That means in case of attitude, somebody may say against or somebody may say in favor. For example, attitude towards sex education, attitude towards new education policy, attitude towards new political government, like that. तमें कहबो हां तुम भल लागे हां मत भल लागु मु कहि ना मत भल लागु. So reaction, your something like that. How do react to the situation, whether you are in favor of that or you are against of that. Now, how can we measure that attitude? By using an attitude scale. So there are different ways, technique through which we can measure, we can assess the attitude of the people. Students, maybe teachers, maybe one type of scale is mostly we are using. You must also use Likert scale, 5-point scale. Likert scale consists of a series of statements, all of which are related to a person's attitude towards a single object. Then attitude towards national policy on new education policy 2020. पचार 30-40 question पचार. Now you can see the example is given. Example of an attitude scale of Likert type is given. Science classes are interesting. देइचे पर the left side देइची ऐसे means strongly agree. जदि हम बहुत भल लागिला strongly agree, undecided, strongly disagree. ये जो 5-point scale. One is your strongly agree, another point is your agree, third is your undecided, then disagree, then strongly disagree. 5. For example, तुम पुत्रा गला reading the textbook is a waste of time. It is a negative item. Then कौन हबो ना दे strongly disagree गला it high scale पाए 5 point पाए वो ना हमरा जो 5-point scale 1 2 3 4 5 माने कौन जदि पॉजिटिव आइटम हला कौन 1 2 3 4 5 नेगेटिव आइटम हला कौन 5 3 2 1 तुम करिवो तेनु ताको सब मिसे दे तार attitude scale हबो. सिमने कहला I enjoy reading the textbook. मत कहबो देखिया I enjoy reading the textbook. एटा पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव
70 समथिंग लोकचे एबे 17
I enjoy reading the textbook. पिला पछा गला पिला को I enjoy एटा पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव. अच्छा जदि हां पॉजिटिव माने जदि से पिला रेस्पोंड स्ट्रांगली एग्री से केते मार्क पाइबो केते स्कोर आम 1 2 3 4 5 5टा पॉइंट स्ट्रांगली एग्री कहला I enjoy
5
पाइबो. अच्छा जदि कहला reading the textbook is a waste of time एटा पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव नेगेटिव स्ट्रांगली एग्री ले केते पाइबो
5 स्ट्रांगली एग्री ले 1
एक पाइबो कम एक उल्टा आइছে पूरा हां नेगेटिव हेलो ना सिनी कहि था reading the textbook is a good use of time है ना स्ट्रांगली एग्री ले 5 पाइ था एई को सब केतरा आइटम अछि ना 10टा आइटम अछि 10टा आइटम तक को मिसेबा धरिनियो प्रथम आइटम साइंस क्लासेस आर इंटरेस्टिंग स्ट्रांगली एग्री हेले 5 पाइला मु लेखले एग्री 4 पाइबी तमे लेखलो अनडिसाइड 3 पाइबो अन्य जे लेखा तेने एई को सब आइटम को स्कोर जान सब मिसे दवा दैट विल बी द attitude score towards that thing. आउट तमर गुडमैन स्केल अछि थॉर्सन स्केल आ के बिकॉज़ थॉर्सन स्केल यूज कर 7-point scale. You know there are different attitude scales which can be used to measure the attitude of the unit of study. Another tool is your checklist. What is checklist? There are some list who the child will, who the respondent will check if it is present. For example, ମୁଁ ତାକୁ ଭିତରୁ ଯିବା ପରେ ମୁଁ ତମ ଉଦାହରଣ ବୁଝିଯିବ କଣ ଧରି ନିଅ ଆମ ସ୍କୁଲରେ କଣ କଣ ସବୁ ଖେଳ ହଉଛି ଆମେ ଜାଣିବା ଆମେ କଣ କରିବା ନା ଗୋଟେ ଲିଷ୍ଟ କରିଦବା କଣ କଣ ଖେଳ ସବୁ କ୍ରିକେଟ ଫୁଟବଲ ଭଲିବଲ ଜମକି ଖେଳ ସମକି 15-20ଟା ଆଇଟମ ଲେଖିଦେଲେ ପିଲା କହିବା you are given a list of the games being played in your school. ତମ ସ୍କୁଲରେ କୋଉ ଖେଳ ହଉଛି ଯୋଉ ଖେଳ ହଉଛି ସେ ଠିକ ମାର ଧର ତମର କ୍ରିକେଟ ଖେଳ ହଉଛି ଠିକ ମାରିଲ ତମର ଟେନିସ ଖେଳ ହଉଛି ଠକି ମାରିଦବ ତମର ଖେଳ ହଉଛି ଧର ବାଗୁଡି କବାଡି ମାର ଠିକ ଏଇ ଚେକ୍ ଲିଷ୍ଟରୁ you are checking from the list about your fact, about your information. Therefore, checklist is simply a fact finding instrument. खाली फैक्ट जानिबा एथरे रेटिंग स्केल बेले एथरे बिहेवियर मापा जाई परिबोनी एथरे एटीट्यूड जाना पड़ी खाली हमें घटना जानिबो फैक्ट जानिबा सिमिलरली तम स्कूल साइंस लैबोरेटरी अछि साइंस लैबोरेटरी सब इंस्ट्रूमेंट अछि ता लिस्ट कर दबो पिला कहबो हमें जाने चाहू तम स्कूल कोन कोन साइंस लैबोरेटरी अछि जिंस ताको लिस्ट करो आउ गोटे पाखे लिख दबा अवेलेबल एंड यूजेस एते तो अच्छी शिक्षक यूज करछि ना जदि यूज कर तो ठीक मारियो अवेलेबल जदि ठीक मारियो सेट जना पड़िबो जे एई स्कूल ले साइंस लैबोरेटरी जिंस अच्छी किनु शिक्षक यूज करनी कोडी छकी मारछि आज्ञा हमर एटा अच्छी किनु यूज करनी धरिने गुटे छोटिया उदाहरण दउछि हमर स्कूल सब प्राय इंग्लिश डिक्शनरी अच्छी ओडिया डिक्शनरी अच्छी आमे पचारे पिला को तमे माने जो डिक्शनरी अच्छी सप्ताह केते दिन से देखु डिक्शनरी कौन कौन डिक्शनरी अच्छी केते थोड़े यूज कर दो जना पर चेकलिस्ट जना पड़ियो देयरफॉर यू आर यूजिंग चेकलिस्ट फॉर गेटिंग द इंफॉर्मेशन द चेकलिस्ट कंसिस्ट ऑफ ए लिस्ट ऑफ आइटम्स और बिहेवियर with a place to check or to mark yes or no it is given दिया types of checklist so देछि game sports कौन ना ठीक से मारियो you can understand no problem. Then tests, psychological tests. So it was Galton who was primarily responsible for launching the testing movement. If there was a question of testing, it was Galton. Then Kettle came, and anyhow, what is the meaning of test? A test is a systematic procedure for observing a person's behavior and describing it with aid of a numerical scale or a category system. A psychological test is essentially an objective and standardized measure of sample of behavior. So, what is test? A test is a systematic procedure of observing personal behavior. Through test, we want to know what you are. धरि नियो पिला को दिए जाउची अचीवमेंट टेस्ट तार गणित हे पारे विज्ञान हे पारे पिला केते मार रखुची केते ता स्टैंडर्ड अछि जानिबा इट कहला क्लासिफिकेशन टेस्ट types of test maybe by function we have educational test like achievement test diagnostic test maybe personality test maybe aptitude test then by nature speed test how quickly you do ए परीक्षा 3 घंटा भीतर कर तमे स्पीड कर दो 2 घंटा 3 घंटा दो मु पारुनी मु 5 घंटा लागुची पावर टेस्ट वर्बल टेस्ट नॉन वर्बल टेस्ट परफॉर्मेंस टेस्ट स्टैंडर्ड टेस्ट क्राइटेरियन रेफरेंस टेस्ट कल्चर फेयर टेस्ट adapted test you are adapting using other countries test then by procedure of administration group test or individual test you are giving a 20 students that is group test you are giving the test to particular one individual that is individual test then there are for example educational test achievement test you want to know whether the students are good achiever or bad achiever achievement test similarly personality test you want to know what type of person is a student, whether introvert, extrovert, or ambivert, whether adjustive, not adjustive. So therefore, there are different personal tests. For example, Eysenck test of personality, Kettle's culture fair test of personality. Like that, there are many tests. Then aptitude test. Aptitude means your special likingness towards a particular subject. It measures of the effect of learning under relatively uncontrolled and unknown conditions. Then classification of test as per the nature. Speed means how quickly you do answer. Then there is a question of standardized test, and the test can be standard test, can be teacher made test. A test is when a test is standardized in terms of norm, in terms of administration, in terms of difficulty, that is known as standardized test. That means when the test is standardized, it can be used in any country by any scholar, by any researcher. But teacher may, it is standard test is prepared by the expert. But teacher made test is prepared by the classroom teacher, though he is not an expert. Therefore, these are the characteristics of a standardized test. Norm. Norm represents the test performance of the standardized sample. गोटे उदाहरण दे जेबी बुझीजो तर ग्रेड नॉर्म हो कि एज नॉर्म हो आमे कोन करबा गोटे पर्टिकुलर एज नै जिबा कोन ना 5 वर्ष पिलांकर मैथमेटिकल एबिलिटी केते हबो ना आमे 5 वर्ष पिलांकर नै जे 100 पिला नै जिबा 5 वर्ष पिला ताकर मैथमेटिक्स नॉलेज नै जिबा ताकू मिसे दबा देखि हरि दबा एवरेज वाला ये जो एवरेज वाला दैट बिकम द एज नॉर्म ऑफ मैथमेटिक्स फॉर द एज ऑफ 5 ये 10 वर्ष पिला पाए हमें कोन करिया ना विज्ञान क्वेश्चन कर दबा देखि दबा 50 पिला को दबा प्रत्येक पिला केते मार्क रखिला दे 50 मार्क को मिसे दबा दे 50 हरि दबा जोटा हला दैट इज द नॉर्म ऑफ साइंटिफिक नॉलेज ऑफ द स्टूडेंट ऑफ एज 10 बा क्लास 5 को पढ़ा पड़ते सिमिलर ग्रेड नॉर्म गोटे ग्रेड माने क्लास आमे सब अष्टम से पिला को नै जिबा ताको इंग्लिश क्वेश्चन दबा तार एवरेज काट दबा that become the English norm for class 8 in English. This is your norm, standard. Then another criteria is your reliability of a test. In the measurement you must have in BEd, at the BEd level or at the graduation level you must have known. Reliability means consistency. If a test measures the same test over different administration, then it is reliable, consistent. Then there are different test retest means the same test will be given again after 15 days or 3 weeks. Then the correlation will be found out between two scores. If it is more than 0.5 something, so you can say it is reliable. Similar test split half. Instead of giving 2 tests, 1 test will be given, and on the basis of the odd number, even number items, we can divide the total scores into 2 and we find out the correlation, then we can. Similarly, alternative for first question, first item, first test will be given. In the second case, some questions may be changed, but it should be alternative. Then validity, that is, reliability is otherwise known as trustworthiness. Trustworthiness. Validity refers to the truthfulness, that is trustworthy, how dependable, it is truthful. What is validity of a test? If a test measures what the test intends to measure, purpose to measure, then we can call it a valid test. That means, for example, if the intelligence test measures intelligence, then it is valid. If the intelligence test measures achievement, then it is not valid. So therefore, a test is said to be valid if it measures its purposes, like that. There are content validity, predictability, construct validity, concurrent validity. So that is not. Another is your inventory. We have to invent, discover. So questionnaire, rating scale, that cannot help you, because these are the abilities which are hidden. So you have to discover, like interest inventory, adjustment inventory, that we can do. Then techniques of data collection. These are the tools. Then techniques. Interview. You know, interview is a face-to-face interaction between two individuals. One is interviewer, another is interviewee. Interview. Interview is a two-way method which permits an exchange of ideas and information. Now the question is, in case of qualitative research, we are using mostly we are using interview. And sometimes many times, if the respondent is an illiterate one, is a blind one, if respondent is unable to read something like that, then interview can help you. Can see the question then interview can be structured interview, can be unstructured interview. Structure means you have prepared the question to be asked. ମୁଁ ଇଣ୍ଟରଭ୍ୟୁରେ କ'ଣ ପଚାରିବି ମୁଁ ତାକୁ ଲେଖିକି ନେଇଛି। ମୁଁ ବସିଲେ ଆଚ୍ଛା କହିଲେ ତମ ନାମ କ'ଣ ନା ତମେ କାହିଁ ଡ୍ରପ୍ ଆଉଟ୍ ପିଲା ଆମେ ଜାଣୁଛନ୍ତି ହ୍ୱାଟ ଆର୍ ଦ ଆମ ଟପିକ୍ ହେଲା କ'ଣ ନା କଜେସ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଡ୍ରପ୍ ଆଉଟ୍। ଆମେ ତା ପଚାରିବା ଯେ ବାପା ତମେ ତ ସ୍କୁଲ ଯାଉନ ନା କେତେ ଦିନ ଯାଉନ ନା 6 ମାସ ହେଲାଣି ନା କାହିଁ ନାଁ ଲେଖିଲେ କାହିଁ ଯାଉନ ନା ଆଜ୍ଞା ମୁଁ କ'ଣ କରିବି ବାପା ତ ଗରିବ ଆମେ ଗରିବ ପଇସା ପତ୍ର ହଉନି ମୁଁ କାମ କରୁଛି। ଓହୋ ତମେ କାମ କରୁଛ ଦିନକୁ କେତେ ଘଣ୍ଟା କାମ କରୁଛ 8 ଘଣ୍ଟା କେତେ ଟଙ୍କା ପଇସା ପାଉଛ ପଇସା କେମିତି ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରୁଛ ତମକୁ ଯଦି ସେତିକି ପଇସା ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଦବ ତମେ କ'ଣ ସ୍କୁଲ ଆସିବ ନା ୟୁ ଆର୍ ଆସ୍କିଂ ଇଣ୍ଟରଭ୍ୟୁ। ଏସବୁ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ୍ ଆମେ ତିଆରି କରି ନେଇଛନ୍ତି। ବଟ୍ ଇନ୍ କେସ୍ ଅନଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଚର୍ଡ ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ୍ ନଟ୍ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ୍ ଟୁ ବି ଆସ୍କଡ୍ ଡ୍ୟୁରିଂ ଦ ଇଣ୍ଟରଭ୍ୟୁ ଇଜ୍ ନଟ୍ ଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଚର୍ଡ। ହ୍ୱାଇ ନା ବେଳେ ବେଳେ ଆମେ ଯୋଉ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ୍ ପଚାରନ୍ତି ଭାବିକି ନେଇଥିବା ସେ ସବୁ କିଛି ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରେ ତା ପିଲାର ଘଟଣା ଆଉ କିଛି ଅଲଗା। ତେଣୁ ପିଲା କିଛି କ'ଣ କରିବା ଜିନିଷ କହେ ସେଠୁ ଆମେ ନୂଆ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ତିଆରି କରୁ। ତେଣୁ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ କ'ଣ କରନ୍ତି ଆମେ ଅନଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଚର ଯିବା ସେଇଠି ସିଚୁଏସନ ଦେଖି ତା ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରିବା ଆମେ ମେଣ୍ଟାଲି ପ୍ରୋସିଡର ଅଫ୍ ଇଣ୍ଟରଭ୍ୟୁ ନୋ ରେକର୍ଡିଂ କରିବା ସବୁବେଳେ ଇଣ୍ଟରଭ୍ୟୁ କଲାବେଳେ ଆମେ ରେକର୍ଡିଂ କରିଦେବା କାହିଁକି ନା ବା ଖାତା ଟିପି ଆଣିବା ନହେଲେ ଭୁଲିଯିବା କ'ଣ ସେ କହିଲା କ'ଣ ନାହିଁ ଯଦି ଇନଫର୍ମେସନ ଭୁଲିଯିବା ଆମର ଇଣ୍ଟରପ୍ରିଟେସନ ସବୁ ଭୁଲ ହେଇଯିବ। Another is your observation. What is observation? Observation is a more natural way of gathering data. This is also in case of qualitative research most useful. It seeks to ascertain what people think and do by watching them in action as they express themselves in various situation activities. So observation by किसी पैसा दरकार नहीं। If the teacher as a researcher want to know about the behavior of the student, you can observe them. पिला माने खेल छुट्टे खाउचंती के बाडौची के खेलुची के बसुची के कोन करची तो हमें ऑब्जर्व करिया कोन करची पिलाटा that can help us। धर गोटे पिला सब दिन मैं देखिली से का मिसुनी ता माने से कोन withdrawn isolated माने होते साई लाजो हाई पड़थे यदि पिला लाजो हबो से पुनी ता पाठ पढ़ा असुविधा हो ना धर से पिलार कोन डाउट अछि सेदी का पतेरिबोनी ता डाउट आर पड़िबो। तेन हम जते मिसिबा द मोर वी इंटरैक्ट द मोर वी गेट क्लैरिफिकेशन। हम समझियो पई खाली पिला न आमे मध्य जते बेर तमर समस्या अछि व्हेन यू आर फेसिंग सम प्रॉब्लम इफ यू शेयर योर प्रॉब्लम का शेयर करिवो तुम संग तो तुम जाहा को भलो भाबुतो तो जाहा को भलो भाबुतो ताको हम शेयर करिवा हमर 50% माने सरोज शेयर इफ सरोज आर शेयर 50% ऑफ सरो गोज यदि हम शेयर कर दबा ना हमर आधा दुख चली जाए आ जो माने सरो को तांको दुख को काहा को भाग कहंत नहीं भागीदार करंत ना अनुमान को बढ़ी जाए एक्युमुलेट। तेणु बेले बेले सुइसाइड कर दियंती काहा को किछ कहि पानती आमे कहि देले में कोन हम रिलैक्सेशन होती से लोक बुझेबो ना भाई एमिति काई करिया सेमिति करिया जीवन अछि लाइक दैट एनी हाउ। So therefore observation may be participant observation or non-participant observation or structure and non-structure. Participant participant means you are as an observer you are participating the respondent कौन करूची ता कथा हम क्लास पाठ पढेला बेले शिक्षक खाली धर मु गणित पढ खाली गणित पढेबी ना किए इनडिसिप्लिन होची किए मनोजोग देख शुणुची तुम मन मन जानी जाउछ ऑब्जर्व करी कोन से पिलाटी मु पढला से लेखुतला वेरी अटेंटिव से पिलाटी ता चुटी टानतला इनडिसिप्लिन ता माने कोन खाली गणित पढो न तुम मध्य ऑब्जर्वेशन जानी जाउछ जे को पिलार बिहेवियर किमतिका दैट इज Participant. Classroom ଶିକ୍ଷକ ଦେଖୁଛି ପିଲାଙ୍କୁ ପାଠ ପଢଉଛି ଦେଖୁଛି participant. Non participant ଧର ପିଲାମାନେ ଖେଳ ଛୁଟିରେ ଖେଳୁଛନ୍ତି ବା ଫୁଟବଲ ମ୍ୟାଚ୍ ହଉଛି 9th କ୍ଲାସ୍ 10th କ୍ଲାସ୍ କିଏ କାହାକୁ ଫାଉଲ ମାରିଦେଲା କିଏ କାହାକୁ ଆମେ ଅବଜର୍ଭ କରୁଛନ୍ତି that is non participant. ପିଲାମାନେ ଦେଖୁନାହାନ୍ତି ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛୁ। Structure non structure ଆମେ ବେଳରେ କ'ଣ କରିବା ନା କ'ଣ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରିବା କ'ଣ ଇଏ ଅବଜର୍ଭ କରିବା ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଆମେ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ଲେଖିଥାନ୍ତି। ସେଇ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାର ଦେଖିକି ସେଇ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନକୁ ଦେଖିକି ଆମେ ଅବଜର୍ଭ କରନ୍ତି ସ୍କୁଲ ଘର ଅଛି ନାହିଁ ଧର ମୁଁ କାଲି ସ୍କୁଲ ଇନଫ୍ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଚର ଅଛି ନାହିଁ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ଯିବି ତାହେଲେ ଇନଫ୍ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଚର ମାନେ କ'ଣ ଏଇଟା ଲେଖି ଯାଇଛି ବେଳେବେଳେ ହଁ ମ ଇନଫ୍ରାଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ଚର ମାନେ ଏଇଆ that is non participant non structure you are not structuring. Therefore there are different stages of planning, there are different stages of observation. One is planning कौन observe करे ता plan करो केते समय हबो कौन को टाइम रे हबो then execution observe किमि से observation हबो तापर किमि recording करे interpret करे. So these are the 3 stages of observation. Another is your documents. Also documents can help us to give get some information. What are documents? Maybe expressive documents, maybe official documents. The expressive documents may be your autobiography, biography, diary, personal letters. Official records are like your minutes, board meetings, meetings of the university, academic photos, like that. Now, whatever document, for example, your textbook is also document. Your Britannica is a document. Your new education policy is a document. So national education policy is a document. Also, any official record is a document. For example, student attendance is a document. Laboratory stock is a document, like that. So therefore, these documents can help us in the process of doing research, and they provide some authentic information. Therefore, they should be valid, they should be reliable. They, whatever they are given, that should be objective and which can be usable. So also they can discriminate that this is a good one, that is not a good one, so that we can rely on those information. So with these words, I can say somehow rather that research design, which includes how to select a problem, identify a problem, how to formulate hypothesis, then how to draw the sample, and how to collect information either by using tools or techniques, that has been completed. With these words, I can say that block 3 is complete. So tomorrow we will discuss about when the data have been collected, what for the data have been collected to analyze. So how to analyze? By using some statistics. So tomorrow we'll discuss analysis and interpretation of data. Now, if you have any question, any doubt, any query, you feel free to ask me. Otherwise, we can wind up the session. Any question? Any query? Yes or no? Otherwise, I'll close. No. Okay, thank you very much for your patient hearing, and I hope that somehow you have some understanding. Please go through the material, then it can also clarify your doubts. Thank you very much. Tomorrow we will be meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.